In the 90s, we were forced to watch an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 in health class. I remember digging the fuck out of it, but I wasn't really tuning in every week. Then in 1994, the Rolling Stones would be on an episode, and it literally changed everything for me. It was in that episode that I found my TV crush in Kathleen Robertson, and subsequently got hooked on the show. And then somehow in 2020, at the height of the pandemic, I would launch a podcast with the EPs.
So we're having a meeting here?
The legendary Charles Rosin.
Get out of here!
Larry Mollin. And have the entire cast together for a 30th anniversary reunion show. And I would meet my TV crush. For the next episode of the Slice of Life show, along with Charles and Larry, we tell the story of the Beverly Hills 90210 show podcast. The way it all started for me is I was watching 90210.
Are we shooting?
Yeah. We're rolling right now. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, take two.
I was watching 90210 because I think I was watching The Dreams of Dylan McKay.
What channel were you watching on?
No, because I tried to watch it on a channel and the music had all changed and I was infuriated with it. So a friend of mine knew how to get the illegal, I'm not going to say where, you know, and I had the illegal with the right music sent to me. So I was watching it on a thumb drive because I refused to watch it without the music. And I thought about the episode afterwards and I was like, for some reason watching Dreams of Dylan McKay that time, something was different. Like I saw it in a different way. I was like, I've seen this show so many times before, but it spoke to me. It was film. It was like a real, like there was something really deep that was happening with how I was watching 90210, and I saw both your names pop up, and I was like, well, I would want to talk to them to find out why. And I just didn't know about a podcast. Like, I just wanted to talk to you guys and be like, why did you do this episode? Why did you do this? You know, like all that stuff. But what's confusing about 90210 to a novice fan is that since Darren Starr's name's on all the episodes, I assumed that Darren Starr wrote every episode of 90210.
So did he.
So I was like, I would like to interview Darren Starr about 90210. So I sent an email to Darren Starr's rep. This is 2019. And I just figured they'd blow it off. But they didn't blow it off. And Darren Starr's rep wrote me back and said, the person that you want to talk to is Chuck Rosin.
Oh, okay.
And so then I was like, wait, what? Like, why would I want to talk to Chuck Rosin? Like, it never occurred to me because his name is on every fucking episode that, like, there were so many writers.
Well, you also didn't know me as Chuck Rosin. You knew me as Charles Rosin.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
You did you know Chuck was Charles?
No,
yeah,
not until that was explained.
Yeah.
But then we did our first chat, but you wouldn't talk to me. And you're also hard to find, which what I'm learning now, because like people now email me to ask you a question.
And I like it that way.
I remember that you were doing the Blaze, because then I studied you, where you were, what had you done this before? Were you doing a podcast? And you did the Blaze, which was great. The segments that you did on the Blaze, I always say, were
Chuck's Corner.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember on the Blaze, you dropped like at the end of something once, like, oh, anytime you want to talk about the Stones episode, I want to come back on to the Blaze. But I, being a Stones fan, was like, to be honest with you, of all the episodes I would want to talk to you about, it would be that one, right? Like, so you
right on.
So I'm so excited to have Charles Rosin here on the Pop-Up Podcast. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm a 90210 super fan and a Rolling Stones super fan, so it was almost like you guys made this episode specifically for me. Right off the bat, just to confirm, that's not true. You didn't make this, you weren't like, there's this kid in Jersey we're making this episode for, right?
I have to be truthful. Of the 144 episodes that I produced, this is the one I made for me.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I remember I said we'd have to go through all the times I saw the Stones and list my Stone shows. And of course, for me, the one that still stands out the most, of course, is when Stevie Wonder stole the show at Winterland
Yeah.
with his first electric solo album. And he does the set. These songs in the key of life. He does the entire album. He's the only person up there making all this music with the synth and being so incredible. Nobody had heard any of it. Everybody was going nuts. And the Stones waited an hour and a half for that all to die out before they'd even come out, and they weren't as good.
Well,
And
Stevie
guess
Wonder.
what happened?
He was off the
After
tour.
San Francisco,
He
that
was
was
off
it
the
for
tour.
Stevie Wonder. He's not little Stevie Wonder anymore.
That happened with Leonard Skinner and them also.
With the Stones?
Yeah, they kicked him off the tour.
Well, no, I think it happened with the Who as well.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody. Yeah.
And that's smart of the Stones to do to eliminate.
you know, in competition, you don't want to be following anyone like
Well,
that.
the Most and Blast show that we saw, then we were both there,
Yeah.
was truly amazing.
It was
to
really
see
good.
Mick.
Yeah,
He
it's almost
ate-
like they're now the best version of themselves at 80 something years old.
pretty interesting band, no question.
Yeah. But then I didn't realize about that episode is that you were the roadie, and for a long time, I assumed you worked with the Stones, and they gave you a part. Like give
Nice.
the guy a fucking part. You know
Very
what I mean?
flattering to be considered a roadie.
I never thought that you were the writer. Like there was no identification in 1990, whatever, when we were watching these episodes of who the writers were,
Right.
unless you
Well,
saw
that's how we
Hollywood
liked it.
or
That's
something.
how we liked it, frankly. But no, I think back to it. I mean, it was wonderful that Chuck let me do that.
Hey, man, what are you doing? Get out of here! Sorry, man. No, I'm done. Show's over.
This is so cool.
I don't think it was ever a question. I told him I wanted to do it, or maybe he encouraged me to do it. I can't remember. But it was great.
Well, he's a professional. He was an
Yeah,
actor. His
I'm
theater
still a SAG member.
background.
I'm
he
still a
was,
SAG
you know,
member,
it was-
and I was a roadie. And as it turned out, in that kind of a weird Hollywood way, for that rehearsal, when I was on the stage there, we were getting ready to rehearse me kicking Ray off the stage. I went over there and I saw the guy who was hanging around was obviously the Stones road manager, and it had a guy I knew, Larry Waterman, who had been my road manager when I was a roadie briefly for the Blood, Sweat and Tears. And I said, Larry, it's Larry Mollin. He went, hey man, what band are you with? I went, no, I'm co-executive producer of the show. But it was great. It was just a magical Hollywood moment, and I'm grateful for it.
It was very cool. But then at some point during the pandemic, I remember that I started podcasting, or I don't call it that because I was just on YouTube every night. But then I called you back and was like, why don't we do that again and let fans ask questions?
All right, wait, before you go to the next fan question, I'm going to put you both in the hot seat. Who should Dylan have been with? Brenda or Kelly?
I would say Brenda.
Brenda was our favorite character to write for, but I would say Kelly.
Really?
I'm with Charles on this.
I said, what do you want to talk about? I said, well, I can talk about music and the fact that it's been stripped and this. And I said, if we're going to talk about music, Larry should come on and talk about music. Larry knows music and that. And it was, have my friend come on.
It was great.
We actually had the Spice Girls for the end of college graduation, where Kelly Taylor's father, who was a big venture capitalist, was actually going to end up going to jail, decides to do a big gesture and throw a big party, and he's going to have the Spice Girls. And the Spice Girls had approached us. They wanted to do the show.
I mean, that's a
So
whole...
when I presented it before the director and producer of the show, who was director, which was Jason literally looked at me like I had two heads. Like, it wasn't bad enough we did the Rolling Stones. Now we're doing the Spice Girls. This is it. I'm out of here. I'm not renewing my contract. We're getting the Cardigans.
Ooh.
When I had to kind of look them up on MTV and kind of watch for a while. Just be like, love, boom. Just very light. No one remembers. That's the band I got fired over. I kind of had overstepped my bounds. I died on the Spice Girl hill.
I mean, in the early days of that, the people that I think were the most helpful for us in getting the podcast off the ground was Darren Martin.
Sure.
Because Darren, the
90210 Bro.
the 90210 Bro, he had just been
Keeper of the
in
Code.
the show because they had just done the reboot.
Yeah. He had been in the reboot.
That's what I'm
The
saying.
actors all loved him. They kind of united. They found they found something in him that they all related to, and they kept them tighter.
And I think that when we first did this, like, he promoted it on all of his stuff.
So we got all the OG fans who went through the dark ages when the show.
And then there was the gal from Facebook.
I was going to say, and then the other girl, and she'll come up a bunch in this.
Oh, Lily Emerald.
Yeah, Lily, the thing about it was Lily had, I'm going to just tell an honest version of the story, is that when I started to say, well, where would be the best place to promote a podcast about 90210, I started to go through all the Facebook fan pages, and Lily had the largest of the fan pages.
Right.
And so, quite honestly, I was like, we want to work with this person because she's going to be able to promote it. And there was a lot of interaction. And from what I understand of it now, that when that reboot happened, they went and did the same thing that I did and went to the fan clubs on Facebook and that's kind of how she got that traction, because they were posting in Lily's,
right,
and all the fan pages, but Lily's. And so then we were off and running. And the first one, I think we had Darren Star and Sandy Grushow.
Yes, well,
yeah. Then we discovered there were people who really wanted to talk about the show. All the cast and crew, and the people we had worked about had kind of suppressed it all these years, and now we gave them an avenue to kind of talk about the show and be proud of the show and celebrate the show.
What about that first episode? Do you remember?
What was it?
The tech sucked.
Yeah,
you didn't know, and you've come a long way, Mr. Ferriero, but you didn't know what you were doing.
No.
What platform did we use then? Did
we just use Zoom? I think. No, I think it might have been StreamYard, but also the guests didn't know what to do. That was what we were okay, I guess.
They didn't have a hook.
They didn't have to hook up, log on, do the thing. I mean,
the tech was really a problem, and a lot of that too was all of us being in a pandemic. And
no, we weren't in the pandemic yet then. I think it's before the pandemic. A little bit, no?
No, I think the pandemic had just started.
So
March 2020.
Yeah, literally. I think we started like a month later.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So I feel like the first thing that happened was there were so many more people on these platforms, StreamYard and Zoom and all of that things were crashing. And then also, like you said, people just didn't know what they were doing. Like we told Darren Star
I mean,
leave the room.
And he literally left his room.
I thought this was podcast. I didn't know it was video. I would have showered.
Can you guys?
Darren,
I like the look. You did good.
Okay.
It was a good show.
Darren, go out of the room and come back in. Sometimes that fixes it so that the other person can hear you.
What? Who can't hear? Can you hear me now?
Sandy can't hear you. So
Sandy could never. He never listened.
I don't like it what he just said.
Yeah,
but...
he just dropped the mic. He just dropped the mic right there. And is that what?
You know, the funny thing was, I mean, you know, with the 90210 cast, here were the two parents, James Eckhouse, Carol Potter, Jim and Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
One went to MIT before transferring to Juilliard, and the other went to Radcliffe.
Yeah.
These were two smart people. The way that Carol dealt with tech.
No, it wasn't good.
It was like, are you sure this was the school? Or were you going, or did you really go to Northeastern? Come on, tell me. Which is it?
The mix of this.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We hear you.
I remember in the very first couple of episodes, I noticed that you were not learning things, because you know everything there is to know about 90210. It's your experience. But I noticed that when we had Sandy on and we would be in dialogue about you and the Brenda and Dylan storyline, that he would ask you a question maybe that he's wanted to ask for 30 years, you know.
By the way, Peter asked a really interesting question. Which is, did you and Chuck, before we had that working lunch in my office with Dan McDermott, where we sort of mapped out the last 5 or 6 episodes of the season, as we were kind of wont to do during the course of the year, had you guys decided going into that meeting that Brenda was going to lose her virginity, or is that something that came up in the meeting? Because I don't remember.
Do you mean The first season. I think we were keeping it to ourselves, weren't we, Chuck? I think we weren't sharing. We weren't sharing everything.
That started happening, I think, really early on, where we were finding things out about the show from another angle.
Oh, I think there were multiple times, if you go back to some of the podcasts, whether it was the first season, second season, or third season, there's a lot of me going, did that happened?
I'll tell you, a couple of things happened. One was they put an offer right away to Alyssa Milano. She turned it down.
Wow.
Then later on, she would do Charm, but she turned him down for this.
You learn something new every day.
I think people didn't understand that Randy Newman has a wonderful song he wrote called "Lonely at the Top," and I was by myself in that first season. There was Darren, there was this David Sten. We let him over. Jordan Booty was a first-time playwright who would start to cry if you gave him notes. After a while, with no more notes, thank you for your first draft, and then Karen would come in and polish a few things up. You had that, and then you had Amy, my friend Amy Spees, and she did some real interesting shows, and I really liked her. But then the show started to move towards a more kind of conventional kind of show, but. It was me, alone with the staff. And, in that, I didn't even know when I started the show, I didn't even know that going to a mix was part of my job. I remember when Duke Vincent said, "Are you going to go to the mixes?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, maybe," in this kind of thing. And only when there was an episode, I guess it was the one with Darren, with the first one that Bethany Rooney directed, where Brandon loses his virginity to the girlfriend who comes out from Minnesota, and without realizing that she became very promiscuous and was going through all sorts of stuff. And Bethany had done that episode, and then she was shooting Perfect Mom, and she told me that the mix on the first time. It was one of the worst mixes she's ever heard. Wow! And she was an associate producer, and the mix was bad, and she said, "Well, why weren't you that layback?" I said, "Layback," and I said to Kenny Miller, "I want to start going to that." And no one ever accused us of having a bad mix after that.
I met up with Charles and Larry in Marina del Rey to take their dogs for a walk. It's always an adventure.
Every day since Larry's moved, practically every day, I park the car on this street right behind us here. This is called Lighthouse. I walk these dogs across. I make sure safety first, Kamayana first. I walk here and I don't take them off leash until I know I'm past where a car could come out or turn in. The most underutilized beach in Southern California, certainly in Santa Monica Bay. And it's our beach. So Larry and I both moved to Venice in 2011. Both moved down to the beach in 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah, 2012. He was here early.
I bought in 2011, but we moved in February 2012.
February, and we moved in July.
It was a great time sharing all the different dogs we had. They've all, come and gone. But we'd sit up there on the deck and we'd smoke a joint.
You got to be. Oh, my dog is pooping, and this is.
I know. I got it.
That's the poop spot for Butler.
I got it.
Gracie's is all over. Butler, you finished your poop. Stop it. Butler, come. See, good dog, isn't it? Isn't that a good dog? You say Butler, come, and Butler comes.
Those were really great events we did in the podcast, where we realized that there was an international audience for the show, and we could put them together in a community situation. People realized other people were just as big of fans as they were, and it kept creating this community. And I think it showed the stars of our show that there really is a big audience out there, and they were able to tap into that.
Was there a guest in our podcast early on that you were surprised came on the show?
I think one of the early guests was Michael Cudlitz. Cudlitz was my friend. Yeah. Remember, most of these people in the beginning, they were my friends, not the cast. The cast, not so much. The directors. Yeah. Dan Attias, Bethany Rooney, people that I brought onto it. I mean, Jeff Melman and I kind of lost touch, but he was a friend, you know, and a regular. You know, Braverman kind of burnt his bridge at 90210, so we didn't invite him. But we could have easily had Chuck come on. Chuck's an interesting guy.
What about you?
The fact we chased down Wings Hauser and got Wings Hauser, of course,
Calling.
like Chuck, he could at least he called in, and of course he's passed now. That was pretty wild that we got him, and getting Kathleen, because we had to really do a campaign to get her, and we kind of used your little nephew in like a pitiful third world ad, like feed this child. To put Kathleen on the show, and so that was kind of good.
I remember a couple of things.
You know, having the girl in I guess it was the 6th season, who played Tara.
Hey, Paige. Okay.
Hey guys. Sorry about that.
Wow, good to see
Look at you. Like that hair. Hi.
What's going on? Now we're all gonna try to look like you.
I'm gonna color her purple now.
Paige Moss.
Paige Moss. Having her come on was kind of wild.
I mean, the thing is that it was so popular on the podcast in the beginning that we were doing 2 episodes a week at one point. Me and you would talk about seasons 1 through 4, and then me and you, 1 through 3, and then we would do something 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
We were in the beginning, and then one of the ones that we got in 6 and 7 was Rebecca Gayheart.
Oh yeah, that was great. We had James Whitmore with her, which was really terrific.
But she was a game changer for us because it was people were listening to the podcast. Yeah. And then early on, you got Brian Austin Green to come on,
and look who's here.
I'm here.
Brian's here.
Hey, I did it.
Hi man, how are you?
What's going on?
Lily's here.
Hey,
Okay,
Brian.
the whole group is here. Lily is a representative of all the fans, and they've been banging out some questions for you. So they're just
There she is. There's Lily.
Well, I mean, look, the Super Show. How many months was that?
I'm building to that. But Brian,
let him build to the soup. What's the matter with you? Let him build.
So Brian came on first, and that was the first time when the show really spiked.
I'd like to start with a confession and tell you, Brian, I love you. I have dreamt about you. I have written about you in my diary as a teenager. I just have to
really?
Let's turn.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. So
Me too, Brian.
Listen,
Brian came on before Eckhouse?
Well, Eckhouse may have came on before Brian, but Brian was the first time that the
Well, and also James didn't like it. I mean, he didn't come back. He didn't really want to do it.
He used to come back every once in a while, like when we were desperate or we had an idea or we what about talking about this or that? But
remember, he was a friend. I mean, he would be people who would read my first drafts. I mean, he was someone that I liked. I liked working with him. I respected his opinion. And we had that relation. And I launched what should have been a nice career as a director, and why that didn't happen for him in film, I'm not quite sure.
Interesting.
But he, like all of that started to build the momentum of it
because people were excited about the show, and everyone kind of caught that, and they wanted to talk about it. They had suppressed it for so long, and there were stories to tell and flowers to give, and so that was great.
Jason,
fun.
then at some point you got Jason.
Hey, here we are, and look who's with us. Mr. Jason Priestley, aka. How are you, man? It's good to have you.
I'm good, Pete. Thanks.
And Gabrielle, back-to-back weeks, I think. And we were...
Well, I consider both of them friends. Luke had already passed, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that the thing about the show, and I was just telling the head of marketing at CBS about this story, when CBS was... not going to give any money for any music.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to the guy who was the person who claims that he was the one that told his boss, named Jonathan Dolgen, an executive at Paramount, a real... he had enough to get a reaction out of Larry on that.
Reacted to that.
Not a sweetheart. Not a sweetheart. He's the one who told him, buy the spelling library. And he said to me, and when I remember part of this conversation because he was having trouble as the major CBS sales executive of their content, having trouble getting the Liev Schreiber show that he was doing in the Fixer character that he was doing for Showtime. He couldn't get it in syndication. And I said to him, with all due respect, I don't think anybody's going to be talking about that show in 30 years. But we find ourselves having to talk about 90210 because of the fans that are really have shown
Generations
that
and
they care. And wait, the praise is he says, well, it's too bad none of your stars became big stars.
They became celebrities.
2 weeks later, Luke dies. And then I knew what full of shit that guy was, because I don't think anybody anticipated the response that we got. Yeah. And in the Rosin report, I actually did a little blurb on it at one point, because it was the first time that somebody for the New Yorker did a tribute to Luke on the Dreams of Dylan McKay, where you started off about and Luke playing the character of Dylan. And I read the thing and went, they mentioned us in the New Yorker?
Right.
It had taken this, because they never did. We never got in anywhere of a major publication in a positive way, except one time, Love You Rolling Stone magazine. On the cover of the Rolling Stone.
Well, I haven't really looked at what Jenny's number of followers on Instagram is. What do you think?
I mean, she's an incredible star.
She's taken what we showed her was possible and really embraced the "I choose me" thing.
You also then started to bring on other writers, and you brought Jessica Klein on the show.
It blew my mind. I know where you're going. It blew my mind when she said that.
What? Go ahead.
I choose me.
Yeah,
that's Charles. I don't take credit often that, and Larry will verify. I don't usually take credit for that. That was all Charles.
I choose me with
Charles. Absolutely, but I didn't write it. It wasn't my script.
Right.
But everything of it is this is the point of the thing.
Yes.
I was the one that said that. So when she said, no, I came up with that, I did.
But anyway, it's funny though, because I was thinking about this on the way here, that usually people work at a job, right? And then 30 years later, they don't get together to talk about what each person did in each department. But this is unique because it's entertainment. It's a show that's beloved and people really all watch. But the crew, whether it would be Drew Kinney or Tom or Jessica Klein or the Chip, they did want to come on and talk about something that they wrote or a story.
Well, Chip came on as a favor to us.
Yeah.
Chip doesn't like that. Chip he has some other credits too.
Yeah, big ones. But like that started.
I don't remember those shows though either.
That started to become something interesting, and I thought it was always great when Jessica and Karen, of course, Karen came on a bunch in the beginning as well. And I always would get notes in the early days when Jessica and Karen would come on that people wanted more of them.
Steve Wasserman's cousin had gone to Beverly Hills High School. She went to an after party, got drunk, just the way it happens in the show, threw up on the principal's shoes, and was suspended. And she had to face the music. She went to everything that happens in the story, except the protest, happened to her. She couldn't graduate. She had to go to summer school, got her diploma in August. But
right, that's right. That's where my Berkeley fantasy comes in the second half of this.
I do remember very well how it came to me that Dylan should have this problem with his dad and get upset, and there should be, some moments of upset. It was just sort of an inspiration. It wasn't really programmed like that. Let's show Dylan's back problems, but that was just a great way to launch them, out of something else. And they both were so excited to do it.
And I don't know that there were podcasts like that at the time that we started to do this.
We were way ahead of things. That's, I think, one of the reasons why it still is, I think, is the high watermark of our time together, besides the friendships that have come out of it.
Yeah.
But that we were on that Today Show top 10 list.
I know.
And it was because there weren't that many. They weren't. They weren't doing. Jason Bateman hadn't discovered doing a podcast yet, or some of the others.
What were you say, Larry?
No, I was just saying. Then we built up, and built up credibility, and then we had this grand idea of
The Super Show, the Kathleen thing I wanted to go back to.
Okay.
Because that started to build, right? Like we wanted Kathleen on the show, and you said it first. I would love to do, just so if any cast members listening, I would love to do their favorite episodes with them and kind of do a deep dive like we've been doing. That would be a lot of fun to do. So if any of them come on, join us. Maybe Kathleen Robertson would want to. You never know. Right?
Now, Larry, isn't Kathleen from Hamilton too?
Yes, she is. A Canadian. She won't respond to me, Molly.
And I revealed this week that I'm a class of '94, and growing up, my TV crush is Claire Arnold. So I mean, she has to come on the show at this point. I remember watching the Stones episode and seeing her troll Stones fans. I kept thinking, "Fuck, she's so annoying," but God, she's so pretty. And then I followed her career, and I really wanted to have her on because she wasn't like everybody else. And the more she ignored us, the more I wanted to have her on. The time of the show where we'll talk about if anyone's heard from Kathleen, because we have a question for the show.
Kathleen, will you please go on Beverly Hills podcast?
Okay, this is happening. We are here live. And we have Kathleen Robertson with us.
I still don't understand why Tiffany hasn't come on. But I guess that's a deep-seated psychological problem.
This is their territory, and you guys Saved by the Bell. This is our show.
Sure,
Don't cross over the line. It's
be.
a little bit of Mean Girl stuff going on,
I guess.
But anyway, I asked her.
But I got on with her really well, and the 1 year I did it, and
I got on with it fine.
She knows that.
I asked her why she wouldn't come on.
You got to see her?
No, Kathleen. I asked her today, and she said, "Well, you seemed unstable."
I mean, the show or you?
Well, probably all of us, but
probably,
But then the little kid, like you said, my nephew was the one that
pleaded on Instagram.
Well, Kathleen, I'm all about gratitude these days, and I can't even know how to word the gratitudes to you because of just nervousness and all that. But I just want to tell you, thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you for meeting me.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun. It was really nice to watch all that old stuff, though. Just, great memories for sure.
But I have to let you know, when we started to first talk about having you on, everybody wanted you to come by because of how much they loved you in the role, what you brought to it. And as we've been talking to you and hearing what you brought to Claire, obviously we love you because it comes from a really, really good place. So thank you so much for coming on this.
The October 4th of that year of 2020 was going to be 30 years of 90210.
Was Melanie with us at that point?
I'm going to get to that because it's really a good story that I don't know if you guys know all of the details of that.
No, sure don't.
But so she, in the process of that, I remember we would do Zooms every week to plan for this show. I think it was your idea, Chuck.
And it was a 3 hour. It was a 3
hour extravaganza. We went WWE.
But almost everybody who was on the show prior to the Super Show was invited back to be on the Super Show.
But then we went out,
got some other people.
We were like, what about Jenny? What about Tori? What about Ian, who had been a little bit he never did our podcast?
Well, then we put reunions together. People who had, like him and his father, this guy and her mother.
Then what was happening is, because of the limitations with StreamYard at the time, that there can only be a certain amount of people.
It was 6, right?
Yes, in the window. Or 8.
Yeah, 8, yeah.
And so it was getting difficult because we knew we were going to need someone to manage
a director,
in and outs. Yeah. And Melanie and I had met maybe about a month before that. She came up. Melanie is great. You know what I mean? Like she is so like with it. She sees something, she goes for it. She chases down the thing that she wants to do. She's just, and because I didn't know to look for anybody like that. She just came to my life like, I can help you.
Yeah, and the other thing that's very special about her that isn't necessarily apply to what we've done here is she's the only Padres fan in the world who's not obnoxious.
Right, yeah, that's true. Though during the post,
that's right. In her heart, she's a Red Sox.
But
fan.
During the postseason, she can throw a little, a little shade.
She has good organizational skills.
Well, and she's a stage manager for the Padres.
Yes, of course.
So she came up and she came up with the concept to take us to locations, if you remember.
Yes, I remember we drove when we went to Occidental College once.
Yeah.
And then we went to a few other. We went down to the Hermosa Beach place
And
once.
then we had we walked through the park and had lunch at.
in Roxbury Park, yes.
Yeah, and Melanie and I really got close that day. And I was thinking, like, when this podcast was coming, the Super Show was coming, and we needed someone that could do the thing. You know what I mean? And so, but at the time, we still had Lily, who was the other person. And the problem was with the podcast was because of the StreamYard setup, there can really only be 3 of us and whatever number of people would be allowed in the StreamYard at that time. And so Lily would not know what I just said, the technical of it all, the limitations.
Right, you needed someone who could.
And also not know the limitations of StreamYard, how to bring people in and out.
And not know the limitations of how many times you could say, I'm Team Brenda.
Exactly, right. And
that's what always caught me most off guard. Before, what was I not aware of was the polarization around what we did with the characters back then. I had no idea that they were that they didn't like each other.
I started to feel really bad for Brenda, and then the following episode where she's crying and she cries to Jim and has a breakdown. So yeah, I would say that was the moment.
I felt really sorry for Brenda because she was honored on the drum.
This has been a really brutal 45 minutes, and it's not because you're saying anything that I haven't heard before. You know, obviously I've been in the minority forever, but I generally disagree with a lot of what's been said as much as I respect your perspectives and your entitlement.
Well, welcome to Brenda Anonymous. This seems like...
Like the fans are now getting into
Well,
it. That was shocking.
I had very rarely, especially from the fan world, defriended somebody on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to do it to this one gal who was a true believer in everything Brenda.
Right.
And when I said, why wasn't Brenda and Dylan more? Why wasn't more? And I said, well, they didn't really get along that well in that second year when they were doing it. She had a different thing. I don't know what the whole issues were because, again, as I was saying, I was pretty much in my office or driving around the city. I didn't hang out, and I had no time to listen to gossip. I didn't care. I had to just, please get the show on time. Please don't go over budget. Please, all the things that matter to on the management side. And I remember saying this to her, and her saying, not believing me. Like, no, they got along well. I said, they really
The
didn't.
actors, you mean? Right.
No, Brenda and Dylan.
Oh, the characters.
No, Luke and Shannen.
Yeah, right, the actors. Yeah, right.
I want to work with the blonde.
Yeah, I mean,
the subtext of that was, I don't want to work with the brunette anymore. That's what that meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I knew that. She knew that. And Shannen knew that.
Yeah.
But
that also makes the most sense for a television show.
Open stories up.
It did, but I'm saying, would it have happened if Luke didn't come into my office and say, you got to change this?
I mean, every once in a while, somebody will write on.
Maybe if I had hired you and you'd say, time to change this up, Charles.
You got to challenge the relationships. Just gotta.
Well, every once in a while, someone will type on the YouTube channel on our page, never should have happened. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It should never have happened. The triangle. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we would not be talking about the show if that didn't happen. What does the show look like? Brenda and Dylan fucking together for 10 seasons? It's not. There's no realistic version of reality.
If you listen to the OMG podcast, which is good, and they've got great followers, they never can understand why there's conflict on the show.
Right.
Why are people getting
Well,
along?
that's not Tori. That's Jenny. Jenny always says that. Yeah.
She doesn't understand that you have to create.
I wanted to just.
Jenny, I love Jenny, and she knows that, and don't see her very often now. But
well, Jenny was the one.
Jenny is the first to admit that I can't remember much about the show, and I only think the only person who watched our show while it was going on was Gabrielle.
Yeah. Probably.
Nobody would say to me on the Friday, that was a good show last night. They were working or whatever.
Well, Brian, I just talked to Brian about this the other day, and he said, well, we did 32 episodes.
Yeah, they had no time.
Yeah,
I had no time.
Yeah.
When I called it after You know, I played basketball 3 times a week in the late 80s in pickup games in Beverly Hills with usually the same guys. A lot of the people who worked for the Academy in the library. We used to play the librarians in the Motion Picture Academy, and the executive director, Bruce Davis, was a big guy, and we had fun and we'd play these games. And I realized I had played a game. One of the times was a Saturday morning. And when we played at the elementary school and the game was over, and Jeff White, who was the first line producer of 90210, was in those games, I realized I'm not playing. I've lost basketball. I can't. How am I going to have time to do this again?
Right.
People have heard me say, I couldn't have done this without Karen.
Oh, no
And
way.
I mean...
And now we know, me having met Karen, I don't, like, thank
also-
God for Karen. You know?
No question, because also, you know, we had little kids at home,
sure.
and we then had a third baby. She was, you know, was born right during the show in the first season, little Avery. And so there, you know, and so we had the kids. She helped me with the writing. She helped me emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because it was, you know, lonely at the top.
It was big.
And, you know, Darren and I weren't getting along in the first season.
Yeah.
Second season was much better.
Rose, when I was with Melanie building up to the Super Show, I remember that I was feeling like there needed to be a shift because Melanie could be on camera. Melanie had a great personality. She knew how to work the internet. She knew she was always just great.
And she could talk baseball.
And she lived in San Diego, so she lived close enough if there was something that came up that she could be a part of it. And so I was feeling that in the car, but I didn't do anything about it because of the commitment to Lily, you know. And then Lily wrote me an email, and the email was like, "This is fucking." I mean, I'm just keeping it real. This is fucking bullshit. I should be on the screen on the Super Show for all the interviews, and like I was just like, and then Lily said, I think it makes more sense if you move forward with Melanie because that seems like a better fit. And she said all the things I just said. She lives out, she's locally, she's doing the stuff. And so I was like, okay, yes. And that's how that happened.
And Mr. Rosin was Team Kelly, so that wasn't any good either.
But she was pissed. You know, I was always upset about that because it was just a limitation of StreamYard that Lily wasn't with us on that Super Show.
Oh.
Well, partly, but I mean, it was mostly that. It was how we had so many people.
Jason Priestley, oh my God.
Oh, Darren. Hey, Darren.
All right, great to see you. You look awesome.
How about this person?
Jenny. Oh my God.
Hi, Jenny.
Jenny. How about this person?
What?
I'm gonna cry as you're thinking.
Wait a minute. How about this person?
Oh my.
And how about this person?
What? Sorry,
Because what you did was great. And I got to see the master at work of like grouping people together and creating segments. And like you literally scheduled out that whole show like an episode of 90210. Whether it be like,
well, it was
opening with the main cast. Then we'll move to this. Then we'll move to that. Then we'll move to this.
The directors to the
exactly.
all the different kinds of people.
And so
together.
where does that person sit? They don't fit into. It's like one of these things don't belong in this sort of thing. And so that's how Melanie came on board. But to me, I always look at it like the Stones guitarists. You know, there was Brian Jones and then Mick Taylor and then Ronnie Wood. Like and Mick Taylor being the most creative period. Like I feel like when Melanie joined us, all the stuff that we did in that time period it would never have been able to be done without her.
Oh, absolutely.
The
Planet
90210.
America's Zip Code, Story Slam.
All of that stuff, all of her time and organization, and then starting the 90 News and all that stuff. Like it was just
90210. I mean, that was tough stuff.
That was fabulous.
You guys ready? We're gonna get in our luggage together because we're
setting now. We're going east to Israel.
We're going to Israel. Melanie, we have to go to the next group, right?
We do. We're going to Italy.
All right. Okay, so where are we going next, guys?
We're going to Europe.
Yes.
So many
My
countries.
people of Italy, I love you all very much. You all look beautiful today. I will see you again next time.
Yes, I mean, you used to hear the stories of people having to, like, you know, walk like, you know, miles to get a signal to watch the show, or not, you know, disobeying or getting illegal signals, or breaking the religious codes of their parents to watch the show, and it really they were able to tap into that, you know, people's real affection for the show, and it hasn't stopped. I mean, you know, we have that. We just had lunch with A-list Alexandra Alyssa, and you know, she's 28 years old, and she's, I think, our youngest fan, and she just picked the show up on SoapNet and became obsessed with it. Yeah. And I watch her now on the red carpet interviewing people. She's really terrific.
It's so cool to see.
Loving what she's doing.
When our community goes and either becomes friends with each other, or then goes out and does something like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and everyone's very supportive. I mean, yeah, there is really a community now. All these friends we've made, people go visit each other. That's the best part of what we did in the last 6 years. It caught Karen and I off guard. We really weren't expecting. We had a little bit with that, with the Blaze, so it just really caught us off guard, and it started to accelerate the conversations, and has certainly shaped the conversations that I'm currently having with CBS. The difference between when I first approached them in 2017 and now is I do know the fan base. Yes. I do know what the fan base wants. I am familiar with where it is internationally. And I fully expect there will be episodes, perhaps, you know, play to pay, but nonetheless, there will be episodes restored with the original music.
I remember when we were doing the Super Show that there was the question of whether or not we would get the main cast to all participate, because Ian had always been like weird with us, right? We never really did the podcast. He did it once or twice, I think. And then Jenny and Tori were not on. And I remember we had a call once and you were like, so I guess we might as well just count all the main cast out. Because like we didn't even have Jason. I think we had Gabrielle. And then I don't know. I think Jason was the one that was like, okay, I'm doing it too. And then this sort of everybody started to get on board. Yeah. And then there's the whole thing about Shannen, that we almost had Shannen on the Super Show.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
We're talking to her people. They were.
I mean, I thought Shannen wanted to be paid. That
was the problem.
Yeah.
Well, not the problem. That's just what.
And then by the time that you and I were I was willing to pay her.
The ship sailed.
That ship had sailed.
Yeah. Do you guys wish that we had Shannen on?
Sure. No question about it.
Why not? Yeah.
Because in my mind, at that point, that she and I had only one moment, that I only saw her one time since I left the show, and it was a time of reconciliation. She was there at NBC when the actress was reading for Wind on Water, is the same actress who ended up being her close friend and working with her on Charmed. And I forget that actress's name.
Holly Marie Combs?
No,
that's the one.
That's it.
Neatest man. He's got the memory. Maybe a few years on my senior, but he's got the memory bank. And anyway, the you know, and I saw her, and we gave a hug, and I know what I heard, and there were two words, the words you want to hear. I'm sorry, because she was such a young girl, and it was such a tough time.
But, I mean, I don't know that we've ever shared this on this podcast or in our podcast that we were told by Shannen's rep that the reason why Shannen wouldn't do our podcast outside of the money was because very early on the podcast.
Oh, Tony Shepard.
We had Tony Shepard on the podcast.
Right.
And Tony Shepard went on a fucking. He went on some. Yeah, he went on. He told his story.
But I will tell you the following about Shannen. First of all, she was she'd been out of work for a while before she had done the pilot of 90210. Heather's had been a few years before, and she hadn't worked a lot since. Joanna Ray, and I've never said this publicly, Joanna Ray got a phone call from a producer. I do not know who it is or who it was. and the producer said to her, quote, "Whatever you do, do not hire that girl. You will be sorry," end quote.
And she had heard that. Well, at least the agent did. The rep did. And that was, I think we were dead to her.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
So we can always blame Tony Shepard for that. Yeah.
Well, a guy had yes, asking him to come on and do that at the time.
That's that's the interesting thing about doing the podcast is that you learn all those truths. You know what I mean? You learn everybody. Listen,
Well,
it's
if we go through the podcast, once in a while, you'll hear Bethany Rooney.
She's
Diane Kennedy. People who were there, who had to really deal with her.
But Randy James really came through for us on that Super Show too, because I remember I wrote Ian an email first and said, for whatever reason, this is where the reunion's happening. And Ian wrote me back and said, I'm in. And so then the only two was really Jenny and Tori that weren't in. And they were starting a podcast.
That's right. Everyone was looking for a place to reminisce about the show's 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And
there wasn't a place like, these
the
TV shows like that would normally do that were all in the same sort of world we were virtually, right? Because this was still pandemic world. So we had the space that made the most sense for everybody to come to do this. And then Randy called me and was like, Jenny's in. And I think Tori's in.
Tori was the last one to come through.
But only because I feel like, from what I understand, like Tori was always in, but was waiting for Randy to call.
Jenny,
For you guys, it's great. You reunited with actors that you worked with. But for me, as a super fan of Beverly Hills 90210, at the height of the pandemic, to be sitting in your, office living room area, talking to the cast of 90210 is fucking surreal. You know what I mean?
Glad we could help.
I'm all about gratitude these days, and I have you all here. So I just want to let you know, I can't express to you how grateful I am that you all came on here and reunited. It's like that Dylan McKay line, right? This is your welcome to your dream come true. I am literally in the dream come true right now. And I guarantee that everyone that's watching this video cast has had some significant moment that the show touched us so deep. And some people have said that this show was a form of therapy for them. I've heard that a couple of times, and I think I sort of agree with that. So, I mean, I think it was there for us in darkness and good times and bad times and the in-between times. And it's a testament to all the work that you guys did 30 years ago with the writers and the great directors and the producers and everybody that pitched in. I mean, the crew and everything else. Thank you guys. This has been an honor to have you all here, and thank you guys for the incredible work that you did. And a happy anniversary to all of you.
Put together also that the talk with Joey Tata.
I think that was the same episode, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was an episode. We never aired it.
Okay, now listen, we couldn't end this and do this Christmas show without this person. So they couldn't come on live for some reasons, but we just wanted to share this with everybody.
To our cast and crew, happy Christmas and have a good one. And that's it.
Facilitated.
The thing about the Super Show that's great is once we had the main cast, then we went after every guest star that you could fucking imagine. I think Larry said something like, just if they were a guest star on 90210, invite them.
More stars and under heaven.
We had Andrea's first Dan Rubin. We had everybody that you could imagine, and then you found
Kylie, Mark Kylie.
Oh, Noli Thornton.
Yeah. Mark Kylie. Yeah.
Right. Oh, Noli. Yeah. Wow,
Noli
she's a
Thornton.
very classy woman.
How did you? She's so stunning. How did you find Noli?
Through LinkedIn. I was using LinkedIn a lot. I would see that people would have LinkedIn profiles with email addresses, and I would kind of just write them.
And I think you found her husband.
Yeah, he was a financial guy.
And then she came on, and she came on a few times to do the show. She was great. So the height of the show was definitely the Super Show. We presented this thing.
But that was only the first year. We went on this
next
year, and we went on another year.
It was so big.
3 years was enough.
Well, yeah. And then we had also Friday News. We had a news show.
Friday news show. And the show was so big, but I mean, and because of the Super Show, we now had like 10 more episodes or 20 more episodes we could do because, well, now we could do a Dan Rubin episode. Well, now we can do this.
Yeah.
and that was really surprising, too, that, all of these people who came on as the guest stars saying that they get stopped and people recognize them. And it's the one that when they go into audition or when they were auditioning, that was the one people want to talk about. And it's one of the things that brings me a lot of there's a Yiddish word called nachas, and it's pleasure.
Pleasure.
Is that how many really successful women in our demographic of watching the show back in the day, watched the show back in the day and went on to do amazing things. My favorite being, of course, Tracy Park was a huge 90210 fan. She watched it all during college.
Amy Schumer on the Chillmark story. I ran into her mother, and her mother, Amy sat down, and they told me how they watched the show every week together, and she would use it as, a lot of a teaching tool, but they were totally addicted to the show.
We even had the actors come on the show and reprise their roles in Story Slam.
I'll read the Roy Randolph lines just to break it up for you. And I'll read the stage direction when there is, that's not narrator. And we'll just go at it. I think you know the character. And this takes place actually right before, this is in season 6, the Christmas of season 6.
Season, I thought it was 7.
7? Oh yeah, 7, season 7. You have to give that. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it won't matter to Jason.
As in my head, Palm Springs Weekend, the series ended, but that was. I'm in the minority on that one.
There was other seasons, Chuck. There were other seasons.
Thank you.
A lot of interesting things happened.
AC after Chuck. AC after Chuck.
There were a lot of interesting things happened that weekend. Just ask Ian Ziering; he could tell you.
Did he wind up getting married? I think.
Yes, he did.
Fans would come on and say things to us about what not only 90210 did for them, but what the podcast was doing for them.
Yeah.
I'm Jennifer Prasad from Toronto, Canada. I started to listen and watch the BH 90210 show podcast during the pandemic, a time when there was a great deal of uncertainty and social isolation. To me, the episodes felt personal to me because I was connecting to a new community of like-minded individuals with a common goal, which was to learn more about the 90210 show from showrunners, producers, writers, the crew, and actors. The insights from the cast and the crew gave me a sense of excitement to learn more about a show that I really loved. Access to the show insiders and from fans across the world, sharing memories, theories, personal experiences, and stories really created a safe space for me and others where we could escape together, collaborate, and connect. Some of my favorite episodes were those interviews with the actors as well as the costume designers and the directors. One of the episodes that I really felt very impactful to me was the tribute to Luke, because we heard from guests who provided insights on Luke as a person versus an actor, and I felt that really helped me to deal with the profound sorrow and sadness I felt with Luke's passing. Pete has an ability to turn interviews and conversations into something deeply relatable, and I am really appreciative of that. During the pandemic, the podcast was my social activity during a time of uncertainty where I felt I was connecting to a niche 90210 community, and I'll forever be grateful for that. Thank you, Pete.
I was, I think
Every
about
Wednesday night,
Purple Nikki. I think of it was her name, Nicole.
Yeah.
who had said that she
With
had
her
lost her mom and father.
I had just lost my dad 2 weeks prior. The pandemic had just started. It was a crazy time, like really crazy, because, like I said, I lost my dad. He had cancer. It was very unexpected because he was in remission. Very unexpected. Then, like I said, 2 weeks later, the pandemic happens. So my mind's all over the place. Like, I'm trying to grieve, but I can't grieve because we're dealing with this uncertainty of where we're at in the world, like what's going to happen. You're afraid. I was like, okay, let me check this out. And it ended up being like the best thing because it ended up distracting me, and it like actually helped my mental health.
The podcast.
Because I was like, okay, this is cool. And then it was like another week, and then another week, and then it became the podcast. I met so many people that I will now be lifelong friends with because of the podcast.
obviously it was during the pandemic, so it was a difficult time for everybody. So to see the writers and the producers and fans interact, it was the medicine us fans needed.
One of the coolest things that happened for the podcast is all these like fans came to the beach house. We all got to hang out. What was that like for you?
It was really fun for me, because I got to meet other fans, and because I'd only met a couple of you in real life. I'd seen a lot of you on the forums and whatever, and hearing on the podcast, but hadn't really met anyone. So that was really fun.
When you did the beach house, what was so cool about it, it was like this opportunity just like to see everybody and hang out with everybody and have that shared like love of the show. So I was initially so grateful for you. I was like, oh, that's a really awesome gift that someone gave me, Chuck and Larry, that we got to see the impact in person of actually meeting people that listen to the podcast. And there's a bunch of people that have said, oh, that like got them through the pandemic or got them through something personal. And so to hear that in person was certainly incredible. But then secondarily for me, the gift that you gave me is with your friendship. Because ultimately, and this is the truth, that up until meeting you, I mean, there was people that saw me and believed in me, but you gave me that gift of seeing me. And I can't say that's a lot of people. And so your belief in me got me moving forward into the next phase of my life.
Having a place every Wednesday night was like almost
with like-minded friends.
That they formed a community around the podcast, watching the podcast, talking offline on Instagram and together.
And then you put together. Wait a second. You put together the what did you call it? The
Patreon.
Yeah. And that was where
After Dark.
That's where we got to meet them after dark. And that was fun. And I remember Lisa, particularly Lisa Enriquez. That we.
Lisa always looked good in the After Dark. Is there a particular fan, and I know you don't no one likes to call fans out like that you say, oh, I love that, like I love when that fan.
I'm very fond of Jessica Jimino and Mary B and Alexandria. They're also fans of my book, so it's hard.
What about the girl in France? I know.
Oh, we love Anna Leon.
Anna, my friend. Yeah. Difference between Larry and I is I fly to Paris and I go to dinner with her.
Is there a particular fan that you were like, oh, I love the one from the podcast?
I'm really very impressed with the knowledge of, was it Catherine West?
You're so full of it. You're totally high right now.
And I'm not about to sit around here and get busted because you leave your little drugs all over the apartment. Then why don't you leave you? Good idea. Maybe I will. No, you know what? I get a better idea. I'll move out. No, that's not what I wanted.
Oh my God. Steve Wasserman is having an orgasm in heaven right now. All of these lines.
I like the Caitlin Hicks.
Oh, Jesus.
Because every time we've done those where they play a character, whether it's been the Story Slam or the thing we just did, Caitlin Hicks is always the first one in and always delivers, I think, the best performances.
Somebody that I thought, in fact, after she was doing it a while with us, would try to figure out ways that she could act down there.
In real life.
Then at some point during this podcast, we started losing people. We lost Jessica. We lost
Denise Dowse.
Joey Tata. But we went to Jessica's
Nicholas Pryor
funeral, and it was sad. It was and Jenny was there, and Gabby was there,
and we were panicked. My eldest granddaughter had just developed a very rare disease, and we didn't know if she was going to survive or not. That day, she was going into Children's Hospital LA, where she was terrible diagnosis and something that we fortunately caught early. Thank you, Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and survived it. But that was that day. I remember that too. Yes, Jessica, you don't expect that. I mean, Steve passed away early, but all of them. So now we're the Altacockers.
I want to say that Jessica was really great on the podcast.
She was fun. She had a lot of energy.
She was great in the rooms. She was great to be around, but she was a lot of fun to be around.
And she always came at the conversations in a different way.
This show was blessed with really good talent. I mean, they were really good. And I learned from casting sessions and from other jobs that when somebody who's talented reads your words, you think you're the greatest writer in the world. Somebody awful reason, you think you just really are terrible. But they sold all this stuff.
But then when we'd have an actor on, and she would tell the actor, "Oh, I loved it."
Like with Jennifer Grant.
Just complimenting you. I was saying that your beauty and confidence and brains come through, and Steve was an idiot.
And Cameron Bancroft.
What you had to get through the hardest audition that there is, which is auditioning for Aaron Spelling to play the boyfriend of his daughter. What is also unbelievably hard to cast is a boy who reads handsome and smart. And you had to read as handsome and smart, which you did. And you also had to be a guy who we could sell that you were a good guy, but we didn't want to tip our hand that we were playing you as the last virgin.
I loved the episode with Emma Caulfield. So you get into the room, Emma, and you're starting to work with all these people. It's now you're introduced to Kelly or Jenny and Tori and the whole gang, right? How are you? Is that challenging to fit in because you're in their world now? You're playing in that field.
Yeah. Well, I've never even said this publicly, so this is fun. But my first meeting with Luke in the hallways there on wherever we were shooting, Van Nuys, I don't know, those old
Van Nuys, yeah.
Cool.
Calvert Street.
Yeah, he threw his arm around me in the hallway and he goes, "So how are the bitches treating you?"
Wow.
And I was like, I'm like, kind of, he's like, yeah. He's like, it's just, welcome to the show. And I'm like, okay. So that kind of said it all, really.
Yeah.
But Tori was always really nice to me.
Guy Ray Rodolph who played Jason Carter.
Yeah.
But she didn't really talk to me. It was fine. It was absolutely fine, character-wise. Didn't talk to me off camera for like the first couple of episodes. But then on the fourth episode, I think it was the fourth, she invited me to her 23rd birthday party. Like it just came out of left field. I'm just like, wow. Oh, all right. I'm going to your birthday party, which I did. And there were fights there. I'm not sure. And then the bouncers were going crazy. And for some reason I was in my, I had my arms around one maniac going, "Hey, the big man walks away. The big man walks away." The bouncers were on another guy going crazy. I learned an interesting lesson about life though, because I nearly got this guy to the door and then the bouncers grabbed him and he went crazy. And then the next day there was all of these reports, I can't remember exactly, about some big bust up at her birthday party and something to do with her ex-lovers and I don't know how much of that was true or not.
Right.
But there were fights.
Oh, and then the one who played Professor Finley, he was legendary.
Jenny, who I did most of my scenes with, this was right around Christmas. We were shooting around the Christmas and there was a break in between and we came back and shot the final couple scenes or episodes. And there was a lot of discussion at the makeup mirror and waiting off stage where we were both next to each other about this wonderful Christmas party that she was throwing with all the top drawer liquors and all the best catering. And that conversation happened repeatedly. And I'm just like sitting there thinking, well, sooner or later, she's probably going to say, "Hey, you want to come?" Never happened. So I felt a little alienated.
I want to bring Brian up because I think Brian Navarro's just been.
I love Brian Navarro.
So great. Melanie left the podcast to do her own stuff, but then Brian Navarro came on in the last few years because we all went to Muntz's wedding.
Muntz's wedding,
Vegas.
In Las Vegas.
We had the crazy idea to create the story that Muntz was
Yeah.
going to show up and
You
ruin Ryan
invited
Thomas
the
Brown's
entire
wedding.
podcast audience to his wedding. The Caitlins were there, and we met Brian, and we've met, by the way, a lot of them. We've met Kristen McIsaac has come out here.
On Friday morning, we're having Tammy over for breakfast.
I got to meet Erin Devine, who's a totally crazed 90210.
Yeah.
Who goes to these Comic-Cons with her children dressed up as the actors.
And obviously Maggie.
And I'm so grateful to Brian Austin Green for always dropping in to surprise someone. And this had happened to you. What would you have said to David at that time? If you were Donna, what would you have said?
I would have said,
What would you say to him?
How could you?
I'm listening. I'm listening. Hi, Maggie. Hi, Kari. How are you?
We've done everything we could do with the podcast. Like, we've covered so many episodes. We've done Planet 90210. We even did the American 90210.
American Zip.
Okay, somebody wanted to say hello to all of you.
Hi, you guys. Hi.
Oh my God.
Hey, Tori.
Hi, my friend.
How
What's
are
going
you?
on, you guys?
Oh, these are just some fans.
What else can we do? And then Story Slam would come up. And then Ryan Thomas Brown's wedding would come up. And then, and
then
then
the Christmas shows.
The
We
Beach
did-
House
they
and the
did the
Christmas
Super
shows.
Deluxe
People
Christmas
say
shows.
about the Christmas shows that they just want that one every year because they feel very, no matter what happens with the podcast, they're very touched and heartwarming.
I like
as a
this
Christmas
year's-
episode should be.
Brian Navarro, excellent addition.
Well,
Very
and
good.
I remember
he loves TV.
What I
too.
was going to say, what I remember about Brian was when we were at Muntz's wedding, that he was so knowledgeable about old school TV and so well spoken, and he had the Reddit.
Reddit, yeah.
And it was like the next thing for the show
for fandom to have.
Yeah, would be to talk about some of those things.
Oh, well, Brian helped me so much. I put out that newsletter for NEA 2025, the Rosin Report. I put out 13 of them. And after a while, Brian kept, this person wants you to send it. This person wants you to send it. He was doing all that. But also, he would reply to a lot of the questions about what were your favorite, songs of the 90s. What did you find? And they were always, obscure, off the wall, not Rosin taste. And I loved all of that.
So back to my Stones analogy, Lily Brian Jones, right? Mick Taylor, Melanie, and Ronnie Wood would be Brian. Fun, kind of like brought it into the next era. One of the controversies in our podcast was always Chuck hates Shannen. That is the furthest thing from the truth. You do not hate Shannen.
I hate anybody.
Yeah. But you used to see that.
What's that?
Chuck hates Shannen, remember?
Yeah, but he was the boss.
I was the man.
When you caused trouble with the Brandon Andrea.
Oh, yeah.
There's a
said
community
no.
of
I never
fans.
saw Brandon and Andrea as a couple was going to
Oh,
work
and
out.
they came at him hard.
I know. I didn't want to say the unsayable was that she wasn't alluring enough. He had no.
Well, I bailed her out of that because
you said that
we did
on-
not want to have him in a couple. We wanted him to. Dylan was in a relationship. He should be the free bird.
Yeah, he's the free bird.
And it wasn't going to work out. And it just better have a close. Can a guy and a gal who have some
friendship.
attractions to each other that are natural and biological just be a terrific friendship?
And you know what? You build up
And that was
sexual
something
tension. That's
that
what
was
you do.
something
That was
to
a
teach
legitimate
too.
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Sexual tension.
So I feel that was
Yeah,
really.
I think it worked. The fact that he would want that, we were successful then because we created that sexual tension that people thought it should have happened, but it didn't.
And the thing about, I remember when you, on the podcast at the end, you were near the Shannen at the end of her life.
We did a beautiful tribute.
And it was, and as you were reading, you read what Shannen had to say when someone asked her, what executives were most and least supportive. And she talked about this one or that one. He said, but the least supportive person was me.
Yeah.
And you wanted to know what my reaction was. And my reaction was, well, she's absolutely right. I supported the production company because that's what my job was.
Yeah. I think what we learned and you've learned when we've been doing these episodes on the podcast was how much people loved her, the actress Shannen and the character, and that you had found scenes and work, both of you, that, wow, she's just so incredible in this.
The moment it started, you could just see Shannen was completely elevated and Brenda was happy again. This was full throttle Brenda. And I want to jump ahead since we're talking about Brenda and Tennessee Williams. Is just relative to her performance She gets the biggest amount of material in this particular first episode, Divas. And I really thought that she did it, how natural she was. It was almost like a contemporary session. It reminds me of, I'm a big fan of Sofia Coppola, and I love what she does with history to take it in. And I felt that Shannen did that, and I was blown by that her interpretation.
Oh, she was, even when we were doing the show. I mean, Shannen, we've talked about it. Shannen sometimes would walk on the set and not know what we're filming and hadn't looked at the scene. And by the time we're filming it, it's coming right out of her soul.
And so
it's
it's
incredible.
like, to me, it's like I wish that we would have done she would have come on the podcast and put the thing aside, because I feel like we would have had such a good time with her. You know what I mean? I think she would have had a lot of laughs, and I think all of that would have been.
Well, hopefully she's somewhere in an ability in here in this podcast. And knows that to be true, because it would have been fun. I would have wanted to get her to laugh 5 times. I would have a higher bar than you guys.
The best thing that came out of the podcast is the friendship that we formed over the last few years.
We had a couple of laughs.
Everybody did.
I'm about to lose control and I just can't take it.
I was totally watching Doug. I was going like, shouldn't be in this show. I hope they're going to kill him, and they did. I mean, I know I shouldn't say that.
Wait, so you said this was your daughter-in-law, you said?
Yes, yes.
So she probably has told somebody somewhere in her life, my mother-in-law is Felice Martin.
Lastly, I think you guys wrote my favorite show. You've turned into very dear friends. I mean, I said this to Kathleen the other day, because I did an interview with someone, Billy Corgan, and she was like, it was such a good interview. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, if it wasn't for Chuck taking time with me after every episode that we did of the podcast and like calling me and saying, stop talking about that in the beginning. You took time. You mentored me, both of you, in different ways. And here we are.
We're rooting for you, Pete.
Okay.
Thank you.
Beverly Hills 90210 did so much for me. But the Beverly Hills 90210 show defined me. I'm so grateful for the many talented actors and directors and producers it introduced me to. The podcast turned my TV crush into one of my greatest friends. And on top of all of that, it gave me 2 of my greatest mentors and friends in Charles and Larry. The one thing I know about the Beverly Hills 90210 show podcast is we're not done yet.
Oh, now this dog, do not be good. This dog is just the wheels. Butler come, Butler come.